and this gets into, I'm going to have to talk about biases and prejudices and implicit biases, like the kind you don't know you have. They're so deep, right? You were indoctrinated so young or so thoroughly, or it's been, or hypnotized, or however it was put there. You know, there are ideas that we have that we pick up from somewhere along the way, and sometimes they can get so buried that we are no longer consciously aware of the fact that we think certain thoughts. They're just always there.
Seem natural.
Yes. It's just totally natural. Like, you don't have to go out of your way to think this way. You don't have to remind yourself to think this way. You never have to have a Post-it note to think of whatever these deep, deep implicit biases are. And I call them biases because they are a filter on how, for me, as I'll explain, a filter for everything I was seeing and hearing and looking at in the world. Everything was going through this filter, and everything was going out through this filter. And I didn't even know it because it seemed so much a part of me. And that particular, it's like I realized that a definition for a prejudice or a bias that might work is the thoughts that you have to have. You don't have a choice in the matter. It's like, it's like I've gone over, we've talked about free will. I've done a whole podcast on it. There's all kinds of things going on in your head that you have no choice or control over at all. And if you don't believe that, when was the last time a song got stuck in your head, and how long was it stuck there, right?
It was, once it's there, it just stays there until another one comes along.
That's right. Or, what I have to do, I have to go listen to the actual song all the way through. And then, of course, within an hour, another one's going. I mean, there's one going in my head right now. There's always stuff going on up there, right? And you don't have a say in all the things that are going on up here. And biases and prejudices are a couple of those things. And I think one of the biggest mistakes people make when they talk about or complain about or are being activists about, say, racial prejudice or gender prejudice or whatever kind of prejudice or bias people have, is they actually seem to think that it's a choice this person's making about whether they're going to have those kind of thoughts. And when somebody's truly prejudiced, really, like we're talking about a real bias now, not just some off-the-cuff opinion or random idea they have or awful thought they're having. I'm talking about, like, this filtering process, this kind of thought that occurs to them that they never even have to think about to have it. When those thoughts have to do with racial hatred or prejudice or any kind of, hatred, I guess you could say, right? Those things exist at a very, very deep level. So much so that the person themselves has built up their own onion layers of rationalizations and justifications for that bias. But the bias is the thing that's buried deep, deep, deep down inside there. And what you experience when you talk to a racist or a misogynist or sexist or whatever is all the onion layers, the surface stuff that they've built up over that to justify thinking that way. Because they have to justify it because they can't help but think that way. Whether it was a minister or a parent or a teacher or somebody who instilled that idea in them somehow, or a friend or a circumstance. There's lots and lots and lots of ways that we adopt ideas and then take them and hold on to them and start operating on them. And I think the implicit biases are the ones that pretty much get installed like early on in our life.
Very young.
But I know for sure that that's not the only way it can happen. It's not like, when you're 30 years old, you're immune from getting
you
biased.
Can still be manipulated.
That's right. And you can be manipulated into, these various things. So, so I just wanted to point out that it's not necessarily as voluntary or under one's control as one might like to think. And I had a real encounter with this for myself this week with the Saving the World thing. So let me get to that.